Welcome back for another episode of TerriChats. Today we have a returning guest, Julia Lomonte. How are you today, Julia?
I'm great, actually. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to talk about today's topic with you.
Of course. I'm very happy to have you back on. Today is going to be a fun little episode. I think it's going to be pretty helpful to a lot of people. One of the main points of today is Julia and I are going to be giving you guys some mental health advice, just some self-care tips and tricks, all of the important things that go into taking care of your mental health. Specifically, we're going to be talking about burnout, especially in school, when you're in college, even high school. And then we're also going to be talking about setting boundaries, because I feel that setting boundaries is a pretty big part of your mental health.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. I think it's very important that we have boundaries so that we can kind of regulate ourselves,
Yeah, I totally agree. I think boundaries for me, that's always been the aspect of mental health and taking care of myself that I struggle with the most. And I think it's just really hard for a lot of people. So I think it's important to talk about for sure.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. I feel like we should start off with saying that you and I have both had our times of not so great mental health.
Agreed.
Definitely. I don't have to speak for you, but I think I know you pretty well, so.
I would say so,
yeah. I know that we both have dealt with a lot of anxiety for a long time, and for a pretty big part of our lives we've dealt with it before we got diagnosed or anything. I feel like we probably, at least I know I did, I had my little ways that I was able to kind of regulate myself, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I always had small little things that I would do to kind of adjust and help myself, but for a while I didn't even have the words to explain what those things were. I just knew there were things that made me feel better when I was nervous, I guess.
Yeah. I very specific memories of going to therapy when I was a lot younger, early high school, not even being able to identify what I thought my anxiety was. I would say to my therapist, I get anxious and I just get really nervous. But she would ask me well, how do you feel when you're anxious? I'd be I don't know. I just feel yucky.
Yeah. I think it's hard. A lot of people, especially when they're younger, through their childhood and teenage years, I think a lot of us don't have the specific language to articulate exactly what it is that we're feeling. So I don't know, it's kind of a vicious cycle in that way, I think.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. You've dealt with burnout before.
I have.
I'm assuming.
I have, definitely.
Me too. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we are on the same page.
Yeah, no, I definitely think we're on the same page.
Okay, cool. So when do you kind of know that you're getting to your burnout point?
This is something super specific, but well, you know this, but I'm sure people listening don't know, but I love to write. That's literally what I do in my free time. My whole life, that's been one of my coping mechanisms, especially when I get overwhelmed or anxious. And I think my first sign of being burnt out is when I lose the motivation to either write or to do things that kind of bring me joy usually. So I think my first clue is kind of just a loss of energy or motivation to do things that usually I'm really excited to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. Normally things that I enjoy do seem almost harder to accomplish when you're reaching that burned out point. For me, burnout is when I'm in school, it's kind of like going to class is like an actual struggle for me. Yeah. Like I cannot go to class when I am getting to that like burnout time.
Yeah, and I feel like that's just like the general like kind of loss of like motivation, or like, well, I don't want to like speak for your experience obviously, but I think a lot of people feel like that when they start to get burnt out, and it's a loss of motivation to do either the things that you enjoy, or even like the motivation to do things that you have to do, like school or work or things like that too.
Before I got on meds, I remember like having like complete like spiral moments where I knew that I was like starting to get to my like burnout period, because like I work at Starbucks, and I sometimes would literally go on my like half-hour breaks and just like cry because like I would be so overwhelmed. Like this was back when I was like working 40 hours a week at Starbucks while also like being a full-time student, and I was falling behind on my grades and all that, like when I was in community college. And like I would just have full like breakdowns when I was having burnouts. And I at first didn't even recognize that as like a burnout, but my dad was the one who was like, you're like burnt out, like you really are, and you don't realize it, but you like are severely burnt out, like you need to take a break. So yeah.
I think one of the hardest things about those situations where you can feel yourself spiraling is the fact that no one wants to be that way, and it's kind of hard when you feel yourself getting to that point and you want to do something about it, but sometimes you're kind of unsure like what exactly is the right thing to help you.
Yeah, I agree. It is very difficult. When you do reach that like burnout point, what are some things that you like to do to help yourself feel either like more relaxed or like just not as like burnt out in general?
So one thing that I love doing, and I don't think I've ever even talked to you about this, but one of my old therapists taught me this kind of method, because I think sometimes when you feel burnt out, just everything feels like too much at one time. So she told me to imagine that I am standing on the edge of like a lake or an ocean, like kind of just like where the water meets like the land, I guess. And that there's all of the problems that I'm worrying about are different like stepping stones. So maybe it's work is one, school is one, something else like in my personal life is one, and to basically just think of as many stones as you can. And then she would ask me like which stone is the biggest, and I would tell her, and then she would be like, okay, well that's the one that you would probably step on to get across the ocean, so that's the one that like you should kind of tackle first. Like that's the one that's probably bothering you the most, because I think sometimes when we step back and realize that we're burnt out, we, at least for me, like I want to fix everything at once and I just want to feel better, but you really do just have to take it like one issue at a time. So I think asking yourself like which issues are bothering me the most and just going down the line helps me a lot.
That's really good advice. Especially for like people who like to visualize things.
Yeah, like I did like this therapist that I was with, she specialized a lot in like art therapy, and I think it's called like somatic play or something. A lot of people when they're an adult like think it's silly to like get out like crayons and markers and like paper and draw things down, but I do that all the time. I'm a very like visual person and it helps me a lot. I love to color. I love art and anything that can like help me decompress as well.
I lately have also been taking up coloring quite a lot, especially after the election. I was very stressed and worried. Honestly, like finding that simple little thing to like help you like relax. It's just so nice.
Those little things that feel insignificant, I guess, especially when you're burnt out and struggling with your mental health, your issues seem so big. So it seems like something so small, like coloring for 20-30 minutes. It feels like there's no way that could possibly help, but I really feel like it does.
I definitely agree. So do you feel like you have like any, not good, but like do you have any stories about like you personally dealing with burnout?
Yeah, I definitely do. I went straight from high school to 4 years of undergrad to 2 years of a master's degree. So that's a lot of school just back to back to back. And long story short, like any master's degree, the work was pretty hard and I had significantly less time to do things that I enjoyed, like writing. I kind of just found myself in this rut because I felt like I was really struggling with keeping myself mentally happy and just mentally okay with the amount of work I was doing and the little amount of time that I had to recharge myself. I went into last spring semester still kind of feeling iffy, but I adjusted a lot better with some coping skills. And yeah, this year I'm feeling a lot better. Mental health issues for a lot of us are inevitable and they're things that never fully go away, but I think that's why noticing the signs within yourself is so important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Thank you for sharing your story because, you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about those things because they kind of suck to like think about. I think it is important that like everyone shares at least one of their stories so that other people can see that they're not the only ones dealing with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think in these like academic settings, it's easy to feel like you're the only one kind of struggling with that.
I feel like now that we've shared some of our personal experiences, I think we should probably dive into how we take care of ourselves, especially when we're dealing with stress or like anxiety or if we're feeling overwhelmed. I know that I have quite a routine for self-care and for how I like to take care of myself when I'm feeling yucky. Love me a good like everything shower. You know, I like do a little exfoliation, you know, a little skincare afterwards. Yeah, a little moisturizing. You know, I love a skincare routine.
Oh, she does.
I've never been like a big like skincare person, but like skincare is like my thing, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%. You're like the queen of skincare.
Oh, it's just so good. I love a good skin and face and just everything body care moment after you have a really bad day. Literally anything that is going to make me happy, I'm going to do it when I'm having a not so good day where I'm just like overwhelmed and just don't feel myself. What's your routine for when you're feeling yucky?
So I know this is going to sound so like basic and repetitive, but one, I'm like a huge water person, and I know sometimes it's so annoying when people are like, just drink more water, because I'm not at all saying that it's going to solve all of your issues, but making sure that you have enough of like your just basic needs. Literally just make sure that you drink enough water. I saw this thing, it was basically saying don't put added pressure on yourself, just literally try to get like as much nutrition in as you need, and then also of course pack yourself like snacks and things that you really like and will make you like happy. It's so easy to forget to drink water, have snacks when we need it and stuff, especially when we're so busy. Sometimes those things are so easy to forget. It makes you feel like a million times better if you just pack yourself like adequate snacks to have throughout the day. So I think that helps me a lot. For a lot of people, like we almost don't even realize, like I had breakfast 7 hours ago. Give your body the fuel that it needs to deal with whatever stressful things you're going through.
I agree. I feel like if you're not giving yourself fuel, you're not going to be able to get through the day.
Yeah, like you can't expect your mind and body to deal with like all the stress and all the deadlines and the schoolwork if you're giving it no energy to do so. All right, so I think another really important thing to talk about is boundaries, how to set them, what setting boundaries kind of looks like, and also why setting boundaries is so hard for so many of us.
Boundaries is a very important part of mental health as well. I know that I used to be the type of person who would say yes to literally everything. People kind of started like walking all over me. I ended up kind of being in a not good environment because I kind of was just always saying yes to people.
For me, I always just felt mean setting boundaries, and I'm not exactly sure where that came from. I think a lot of people are kind of socialized that way to think that they have to kind of be like a people pleaser, and I feel like it wasn't until probably the past couple years, like 22, 23, that I started to feel like I didn't have to be a people pleaser and I could kind of protect my own like energy and space a little bit more, and that it wasn't a mean thing to do.
Yeah, I can definitely see how like setting boundaries can definitely feel like almost like selfish in a way. Like, you know that like someone needs you, or like, you know, someone really does kind of need your help, but you know for yourself that like that's not really something that you want to do or something that you should be doing. So, you know, sometimes like it is important to just kind of like put your foot down and stick up for yourself. So do you have any like experiences that you can share, a time you had to set boundaries and, you know, either it went very well or it went not so well?
The best example I can give is something we kind of already touched on, but I think I've just gotten a little bit better at saying no to certain social situations. And I always thought I was kind of being like a loser or like a buzzkill if I said no to something. But I feel like a lot of my school friends that I have now are very well equipped in like the boundary area, and like they also feel like it's really important to set boundaries. So I feel really comfortable just kind of being like, you know, I'm feeling really tired or I'm just feeling really worn out. Like, I think I'm going to sit this one out. And I think that also just comes with like age too. Like as you get more mature, you can kind of express yourself a little bit better.
When I was younger, it was definitely hard for me to be like, no, I don't like that, or I don't want to do that. But like now that I'm older, I'm just like, yeah, F that, essentially. Like,
and there's nothing wrong with saying that you really don't have like the energy or like the mental space for something like at that moment.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Are there like any tips that you have for people who might be like struggling to set boundaries with people in their lives?
I think one of the biggest things that one of my friends that I made in grad school always tells me is that your friends and the people who care about you taking care of yourself. So, you know, if someone's a true friend and you're telling them, listen, like, I am so sorry, I'm like kind of not up to doing this right now. I would get so worked up about having to say no to like spontaneously getting Starbucks with someone or like doing something little like that. You know, friends want what's best for you, and friends are not going to get mad at you or not understand why you need to say no to something, especially if you're telling them that, it's just to take care of yourself.
I think to go along with that, I think we should also kind of talk about the big word. The big
no.
Yes. Yes. The answer is no. Yes, that is the word that we want to talk about. I think that the word no is a very powerful word.
I agree, 100%. We're kind of taught at a really young age to not just outright say the word no. You are little and someone comes up to you and wants to share a toy with you. You're supposed to just let them play with you instead of being like, no. That just kind of translates into like our young adult years. A lot of times we think that saying no is just so bad and something that we're not supposed to do, when in reality it's really just, you have to say no sometimes. Like you can't do it all, especially when you're in your early 20s trying to figure life out and trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and who you want to be. And you definitely cannot say yes to every single thing because you will go crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think that like saying no is very important. And I think that saying no also kind of ties into like the burnout thing, where like, if you are taking on like 10 projects all at once, you need to like step back for a second and be like, why did I do this? You can't, because like if you have 10 projects going on and then like all of your own things going on too, that's like way too much for you. Like, how are you going to juggle your personal life, your schoolwork, your regular work, and then these 10 projects all together? You're never obligated to like help anyone, I feel. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially in situations where, maybe it's a friend or someone that we really care about that's kind of asking us maybe like for a favor or whatever it is, it feels like we almost can't say no, when I think sometimes we do have to remind ourselves that even though we love and care about this person, sometimes if we don't have the mental or physical energy to do something, that doesn't mean we don't care about them and we don't want the best for them. It just means that maybe we need to step back and take care of ourselves a little bit.
I definitely agree. It's very important that like we do have that time where we can like, be with the people that we love and, care about, like you said.
Definitely agree, Terry.
Thanks, Julia.
You're so welcome, Terry.
Have you ever had an experience where saying no, for a fact, was like the better thing for you to do?
There have been times where maybe there was like a social event or a hangout that I wanted to go to, and I just knew that I didn't have the mental energy for it. And I knew that going and kind of exerting my mental energy would lead to some anxiety and some burnout and stuff. There was a lot of times where I'm very confident that I made the right choice, but of course, it still doesn't make it easier in the moment.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It could still be like super hard, like even though you may feel like that is the right thing for you to do. I actually had a pretty recent experience kind of the same to that a little bit, where, I was having kind of like a crummy day and I just like wasn't really feeling myself, but I knew I had a friend coming up from home to come visit me at school. I knew that was going to be a long drive. I didn't want to make her drive all the way up here and then me to just kind of like have not so great energy. An hour before I knew she was going to be leaving, and I was like, hey, like, I hope you don't mind. Today I'm not really like feeling that great, just mentally and emotionally. Like I'm just having a not so good day. I was just like, do you mind if when you come up here, like, do you think we could just like chill? Like, because she's the type of person that wants to like go out and like do stuff. And sometimes I am just not, I just do not want to do anything. So I feel like, you know, it was very smart of me to be like, hey, I kind of just need like a chill day. I just wanted to like hang out and just have like little girly chat with her and, you know, whatever. And that's what we ended up doing. And we had a great night. It was so much fun. And yeah, I was very happy that I like spoke up for myself and was like, hey, we just need to chill.
Yeah, I think advocating for yourself gets easier with time, but it definitely is really hard for, I think, a lot of people to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Do you have any last little things, words of wisdom that you want to say?
I think, as silly as it sounds, just kind of following your gut in a lot of situations. I think with burnout and then also setting boundaries, like your mind and body kind of tell you, you know, when they're tired or when they need a break. So just really listening to yourself as much as you can. And yeah, I'm really happy that we had this conversation. I think it's super, super important and something that we need to continue to have open dialogue about.
I agree. Like, I definitely think it's something that, you know, everyone needs to be talking about because it's very important. I'm going to give you guys a challenge.
Good.
And I think you should do this too, Julia, and I'll do it too.
Awesome.
But I think that we should all take a day this week and just, you know, practice saying no to something that, you know, maybe you wouldn't normally say no to. Or if you don't want to do that, which is totally fine if you don't want to. Sometimes it takes time to build the courage to do that. But if you don't want to do that, you know, little self-care, drink some extra water, you know, maybe wash your face, watch a good movie maybe, you know, just take care of yourself one day this week, you know, make it a day about you.
A warm cup of tea, hot chocolate even.
Yes, hot chocolate is perfect for this time of year.
Exactly. Marshmallows on top.
Yes, with some whipped cream.
Of course.
1000%.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love Dunkin' hot chocolate.
Me too. 100%.
Dunkin' hot chocolate is the way to go.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
That's a recommendation.
100%. Yeah, so thank you again to Julia for joining us on this third episode of TerriChats. Stay tuned because there will be more eventually. Thank you again for joining us on this episode of TerriChats, and I hope to have you all back soon.
Bye, TerriChat.
Bye, guys.